They said the master of Ravenshade estate had not aged in decades. They said no mirror in the house reflected him correctly. They said servants who looked him in the eyes never stayed long. But none of that mattered to Elena Ward. Because legends didn't scare you when hunger was louder than fear. At 27, Elena was already exhausted in a way that sleep could never fix. Life had pressed its full weight onto her shoulders early, too early. Her mother had died cleaning other people's homes. Her father had vanished before she could remember his face. And now Elena scrubbed marble floors in the same cold world, raising her 7-year-old daughter alone. A maid's daughter, they called her. As if that explained why people spoke to her like she was invisible. Ravenshade estate rose from the mist like a gothic nightmare, iron gates, black stone towers, and windows that never seemed fully lit. It sat on the edge of the forest, far from town, far from mercy. The wealthy elite called it historic. The staff called it cursed. Elena just called it work. She adjusted the worn sleeves of her uniform as she pushed a cart down the east hallway, her palms raw from bleach and cold water. Her daughter Mira walked quietly beside her, tiny fingers gripping the hem of Elena's apron. "Eyes down," Elena whispered. "And no talking." Mira nodded obediently. She was a gentle child. Too gentle for a world like this. Elena hated herself for bringing her here, but the alternative was worse. Shelters were full. Jobs were scarce. And Ravenshade paid in cash, no questions asked. That should have been the first warning. Maid. The voice sliced through the silence. Elena stiffened. A group of guests stood near the grand staircase, expensive suits, polished smiles, eyes that slid over her like dirt. One woman wrinkled her nose. "Isn't it disgusting," she said loudly, "how they let servants walk around during events?" "I know," another laughed. "It ruins the atmosphere." Elena lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "We'll move." As she turned, her cart bumped a man's shoe. Champagne sloshed. The man exploded. "Watch where you're going, you stupid girl." The glass shattered on the floor. Mira flinched. I'll clean it," Elena said quickly, kneeling. Her hands shook as she picked up shards of glass, one slicing her finger open. Blood bloomed red against white marble. Laughter rippled above her. "Careful," the woman smirked. "You'll stain the floor." None of them noticed the air shift. None of them noticed the sudden stillness spreading outward like a held breath. From the top of the staircase he watched. Lord Alaric Nocturne. Owner of Ravenshade. Feared billionaire. Ancient vampire king. Centuries had hardened his face into something sculpted and cold. Black hair brushed his shoulders. His eyes, silver and unreadable, followed the scene below with lethal focus. He felt it before he understood it. A pull. A strange, aching pressure beneath his ribs, where his heart had stopped beating long ago. And then, the scent. Not perfume. Not fear. Something older. Something familiar. His gaze locked onto the kneeling maid. The mark beneath her collar burned white-hot. Elena gasped, clutching her shoulder. At that moment Mira looked up. And without fear, without hesitation, she pointed. "Sir," the child said, her small voice clear in the vast hall. Everyone froze. Myra's finger trembled as she stared straight at Lord Nocturne. "My mom has a mark," she said. "Just like yours." The silence that followed was absolute. Alaric's breath stopped. Because no human child should have known that. And no one, had seen the star sigil scar on his neck in over 300 years. The silence in the grand hall did not break naturally. It shattered. Gasps rippled through the guests like a sudden wave, whispers spreading instantly, sharp and curious and cruel. A child speaking to Lord Nocturne without permission was unheard of. A maid's daughter daring to point at him was unthinkable. Elena felt every eye burn into her back. "Mira," she whispered urgently, pulling her daughter close. "What did I tell you? Don't speak." "I'm sorry, Mama," Mira said, confused. "But it's true." Elena's heart pounded so hard it hurt. She didn't dare look up, but she could feel him. The air itself felt heavier, colder, charged with something ancient and dangerous. Across the room, Lord Alaric Nocturne had not moved. Not a muscle. His silver eyes were locked on the child. On the maid. On the place beneath the woman's collar where ancient magic screamed recognition. Before he could speak, a sharp voice cut through the tension. "This is outrageous." Madame Whitlock, the estate's head supervisor, stormed forward, her heels clicking like gunshots on marble. She grabbed Elena's arm with bruising force. "How dare you bring a child into this house?" she snapped. "During a private gathering, no less. You will be dismissed immediately." I had nowhere else, Elena pleaded quietly. Please. I work hard. I follow the rules. Rules? Whitlock scoffed. You servants always have excuses. She turned toward the guest, smiling thinly. I apologize for the disturbance. This woman has clearly lost control of her child. Elena swallowed her pride. Please, she whispered again. Don't punish my daughter. Mira tightened her grip on Elena's hand. I didn't mean to be bad, she said softly. That was when Alaric moved. He descended the stairs without haste, each step deliberate, measured. The crowd parted instinctively, like prey sensing a predator's approach. His presence pressed down on the room, ancient and commanding. Release her. His voice was low, deadly calm. Whitlock froze. And my lord, she stammered. I was just. I said, Alaric repeated, his eyes never leaving Elena. Release her. Whitlock's fingers loosened instantly. Elena stumbled back, clutching Mira. Alaric stopped a few feet away from them. Up close, he was terrifying, tall, impossibly pale, his gaze sharp enough to strip secrets from bone. Elena's instinct screamed to bow, to run, to disappear. But she didn't. She stood there shielding her child. Something flickered in Alaric's eyes. Respect. You will all leave us, he said to the room. No one argued. Within moments, the hall emptied. Doors closed. Silence returned, thick and intimate. Alaric crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to Myra's height. His voice softened, though the power beneath it never faded. You spoke boldly, he said. Why? Mira hesitated, then answered honestly. Because Mama's mark hurts when storms come. And yours felt sad. Alaric's jaw tightened. Slowly he turned his gaze to Elena. Show me, he said quietly. The mark. Elena hesitated. Years of being powerless taught her that obedience was survival. But something in his tone wasn't command, it was need. With trembling fingers, she pulled the fabric of her uniform aside. The sigil revealed itself. A fractured star entwined with a crescent, ancient, glowing faintly beneath her skin. Alaric inhaled sharply. He staggered back one step. It's impossible, he whispered. Elena's voice shook. I was born with it. My mother said it was a curse. Alaric laughed once, broken, disbelieving. No, he said. It's a vow. Lightning cracked outside. The mark flared brighter. Alaric straightened. From this moment on, he said, his voice echoing through stone and soul, no one in this house will ever touch you without my permission. Whitlock paled. And you, Alaric added coldly, turning to her, are dismissed. But, leave, he snarled. She fled. Elena stood frozen. She had come here powerless. But the most feared being in the world had just chosen her side. Elena barely slept that night. Ravenshade Estate, once just a place of cold stone and endless work, now felt alive, watching, waiting. Every shadow seemed to breathe. Every whisper of wind against the windows made her heart race. Mira slept curled beside her on the narrow servant's bed, clutching her worn stuffed rabbit, unaware that her innocent words had shaken an immortal king. Elena lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her hand pressed to her left shoulder. The mark burned softly. Not painful. Awake. A gentle knock came at the door. Elena sat up instantly, panic flooding her chest. No one knocked on servant doors unless something was wrong. She opened it slowly. A tall, elderly man stood there, impeccably dressed, posture straight despite his age. I am Cedric, he said gently. Lord Nocturne's steward. Please do not be alarmed. Elena swallowed. Is something wrong? No, Cedric said. Quite the opposite. His lordship has requested your presence. Both of you. Mira stirred, rubbing her eyes. Mama? Elena hesitated. Every instinct told her to protect her daughter. But refusing was not an option. They followed Cedric through corridors Elena had never been allowed to enter, hallways lined with ancient tapestries, portraits whose eyes seemed far too aware, candles burning with a blue-white flame. At last they reached the west wing. The forbidden wing. Cedric opened the door and stepped aside. Alaric Nocturne stood by the massive arched window, hands clasped behind his back, the moonlight painting him in silver and shadow. He turned as they entered. Come closer, he said quietly. Elena obeyed, Mira gripping her hand. I owe you an explanation, Alaric said. And you deserve the truth. He gestured toward a chair, but Elena remained standing. I don't want trouble, she said softly. I just want to work. To keep my daughter safe. Alaric's expression shifted. something ancient and weary flickering beneath the cold exterior. That, he said, is precisely why fate chose you. He lifted his collar, revealing the star-shaped scar etched into his neck, identical to Elena's mark, glowing faintly now that they stood so close. This sigil, he said, is older than empires. It binds souls across lifetimes. Elena's breath caught. That's impossible. So was my survival, Alaric replied. Until it wasn't. He began to speak of centuries past, of a woman born poor, gentle, and brave, executed for loving a monster. Of a vow carved into flesh by blood magic and grief. Of a prophecy that promised her soul would return, marked and unaware. Elena listened numb. You think I'm her? She whispered. I don't think, Alaric said softly. I know. Mira looked between them. Does that mean Mama is a queen? Alaric smiled faintly. Not yet, he said. But she carries the strength of one. Elena shook her head. I'm just a maid. Alaric stepped closer. No, he said firmly. You are a woman who endures cruelty without becoming cruel. Who shields her child without fear. Who stands when the world tells her to kneel. His voice lowered. And that, he said, is rarer than immortality. For the first time in centuries, Alaric felt warmth. Not hunger. Not possession. Respect. Servants stopped working when Elena passed. Guards stared too long. Even the walls of Raven Shade seemed to hum with rumor. The maid who had been summoned to the West Wing. The child who spoke to the king. The mark. Elena felt it in her bones. Attention was dangerous. She dressed Mira and walked her to the small kitchen where she was usually allowed to sit quietly during shifts. Before Elena could return to her duties, Cedric appeared again. His lordship requests your presence in the grand hall, he said carefully. Elena's stomach dropped. Public summons were never good. When she entered the hall, she froze. Every servant had been assembled. Supervisors. Guards. Even a few aristocratic guests who had stayed overnight. At the front stood a semicircle of figures cloaked in dark silk and crimson velvet. The Vampire Council. Ancients. Power radiated from them like pressure before a storm. Elena felt suddenly very small. Mira squeezed her hand. It's okay, Mama? At the center of the hall, Alaric Nocturne stood alone. Tall. Still. Unbowed. The human, one of the elders said coldly, eyes like black glass. Bring her forward. A guard stepped toward Elena. Before he touched her, Alaric spoke. She will walk on her own. Elena stepped forward, chin lifted despite the tremor in her legs. State your name, another elder demanded. Elena Ward. And your status? I am a maid. Murmurs rippled through the council. A maid bearing the mark of the first queen, the elder sneered. Do you deny it? Elena swallowed. I don't understand it. I never asked for it. Convenient, the elder replied. Humans often benefit from accidents. That was when the humiliation began. They questioned her intelligence, her worth, her bloodline, her right to exist in that space. Each word cut deep. Elena endured it silently. Until they mentioned Mira. Your child is an anomaly, one elder said. Potentially dangerous. Elena snapped. She is a child, she said, voice shaking but strong. She has done nothing wrong. The hall fell silent. Alaric turned. Slowly. Dangerously. That, he said, is enough. The elders stiffened. You forget your place, King Nocturne, one hissed. No, Alaric replied calmly. You forget yours. He stepped forward, placing himself between Elena and the council. This woman, he said, was humiliated by your servants. Threatened. Treated as disposable. His gaze swept the room. And yet she showed more dignity than any of you. The mark on his neck flared. So I will make this very clear, Alaric said. Elena Ward is under my protection. Gasps echoed. From this day forward, he continued, anyone who harms her, or her child, answers to me. Silence. Then softly Mira spoke. Does that mean we can stay? Alaric knelt beside her. Yes, he said. It means you are safe. Elena felt tears spill down her cheeks. For the first time in her life, someone powerful had chosen her. Elena learned that quickly. After the council gathering, the estate changed its behavior toward her, but not its heart. Servants bowed now, but their eyes still judged. Guards followed her through hallways under the excuse of safety. Whispers sharpened into something darker. Jealousy. Fear. Resentment. Power always exposes cruelty. Elena tried to keep life normal for Mira. She worked lighter duties now, mostly in the private wing, but she refused special treatment. She folded linens. She cleaned rooms. She earned her place. Alaric noticed everything. He noticed how she thanked the kitchen boys, how she calmed frightened servants, how she never once asked him for favors. That restraint unsettled him more than ambition ever could. Late one evening, as rain drummed against the stained glass windows, Elena was returning from the washroom when the hallway torches flickered. The air dropped 10 degrees. She froze. A voice slid out of the darkness. "You don't belong here." 3 figures emerged, cloaked, eyes glowing faintly red. "Council loyalists." "Elena Ward," one said smoothly. "You have caused instability." Elena backed away slowly. "I don't want trouble." "But you are trouble," another replied. "A human marked by royal magic." They stepped closer. The mark on Elena's shoulder ignited. Pain tore through her, but beneath it was something else. Strength. Images flashed through her mind: stone temples, blood oaths, a woman standing beside a crowned monster not as property but as equal. "Don't touch me," Elena whispered. They laughed. Until the hallway exploded with force. The torches shattered. Stone cracked. Elena screamed, not in fear but power. A shockwave threw the vampires backward, slamming them into the walls. The sigil on her shoulder burned bright crimson. She collapsed to her knees, shaking. Moments later, Alaric was there. The vampires were gone, fled. He knelt beside her instantly, hands hovering, afraid to touch. "Elena," he said urgently. "What did you do?" She looked up at him, tears streaking her face. "I don't know." He helped her to her feet, holding her carefully as if she might shatter. "You defended yourself," he said quietly. "With magic older than my reign." Her breath trembled. "I was afraid." Alaric met her eyes. "So was I," he admitted. They stood too close. The air between them charged, not with hunger but connection. For centuries Alaric had ruled alone. Now the presence of this fragile, unbreakable woman threatened his control. "If they hurt you," he began. She reached out, placing her hand over his chest. "I'm not afraid of you," she said softly. Something inside Alaric cracked. That night he stood outside her door for hours, guarding, resisting, wanting. Because loving her would make her a target. And he would burn the world before letting that happen. After that night, Elena was never alone. Guards lined the corridors outside her quarters. Ancient wards shimmered faintly in the stone walls. Ravenshade Estate had become less a home and more a fortress. And Elena understood why. The council was afraid. Not of Alaric. Of her. She felt it now, something deep and ancient moving beneath her skin, responding to fear, to love, to injustice. The mark no longer burned randomly. It pulsed with awareness, like a heart remembering how to beat. Mira noticed it first. "It's glowing again," she whispered one evening, sitting cross-legged on the bed. Elena looked down at her shoulder. The sigil shone softly. "Does it hurt?" Mira asked. "No," Elena said honestly. "It feels warm." A knock came at the door. Alaric entered, his expression grim. "They're convening the council," he said. "Tonight." Elena's stomach tightened. "About me?" "Yes." "About Mira," she corrected quietly. Alaric didn't deny it. "They will demand judgment," he said. "They will claim you are a threat to balance." Elena stood straighter. "Then I'll stand before them." Alaric's eyes darkened. "I won't allow them to hurt you." She stepped closer, close enough to see the centuries of loneliness etched into his face. "You can't protect me forever," she said gently. "And I don't want to hide." For the first time the Vampire King looked uncertain. The grand hall filled again that night, elders, nobles, guards, shadows that had watched empires rise and fall. Elena walked in holding Myra's hand. "No chains. No fear." The elders sneered. "A human dares return," one said. "Armed with stolen power." Elena lifted her chin. "This power was never stolen," she said clearly. "It was entrusted." Murmurs rippled. "She speaks as if she understands ancient law," another elder scoffed. "I do," Elena replied. The mark ignited. Symbols flared across the floor, ancient runes responding to her presence. The hall trembled. Mira stepped forward suddenly. "Stop," she said. Everyone froze. "The fighting ends now," the child continued. "You're all scared because you forgot something." Alaric's breath caught. The room bent toward Myra's voice. "You forgot," Mira said softly, "that love is older than blood." The sigil surged. Memories flooded the elders, visions of the first queen, of vows made to protect humanity, not rule it. One by one the elders dropped to their knees. The truth could no longer be denied. Elena turned to Alaric. "I remember now," she said. "Not my past life, but my purpose." He stepped toward her, voice hoarse. "Say it." "I was never meant to rule beside you," she said. "I was meant to change you." She took his hands. "And you were never meant to own power alone." Silence. Then Alaric did the unthinkable. He knelt. "Will you choose this life?" he asked her. "Not as my servant, not as my protection, but as my equal." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "I choose us," she said. The hall erupted with light. The council bowed. The old order ended. Months later, Ravenshade was different. Servants were treated as family. Children laughed in halls once ruled by fear. Mira ran freely, beloved by all. And Elena, once invisible, once humiliated, stood beside the vampire king not as a queen born of blood, but as one forged by kindness, resilience, and courage. She had risen not because she was chosen, but because she chose to remain gentle in a cruel world.